Hello everyone and welcome to JPCatholic's Faculty Spotlight. With us today we have Kevin Culbertson. Kevin is a professor of business at JPCatholic. He is also the chair of the business department and the MBA program chair. And he has a long rap sheet of a career here. So I didn't memorize it, let me give it to you right now. Kevin started out his career in journalism as a news director at CNN. He joined Tribune Broadcasting, where he traveled internationally covering news with the White House Press Corps before moving to managing news television in Washington, D.C.'s PBS station. There he managed shows like the McNeil and Lear News Hour and the Washington Week in Review. He produced television programs and documentaries for Georgetown University, which aired nationally on PBS. Kevin built a TV station in Hawaii. He's been inducted into the Nevada Broadcasters Association Hall of Fame. For all of you filmmakers out there, he is on the advisory board for the 168-hour film festival. And on top of that, he is also a licensed commercial pilot. So fun fact there.
Thanks for that kind introduction.
Oh, thank you very much. So let's get into it, Kevin. So with television nowadays, everything's changing. Viewing habits are changing. You have people transitioning from watching things in real time to watching things on demand, online, internet, streamed, all that stuff. And even the platform is changing from actual televisions to cell phones, tablets, laptops. And also many people are cutting the cord, or you have millennials like myself, never subscribed to cable TV. And
cord nevers, as we call them.
Exactly,
right?
Cord nevers. And maturing into this age where they could, we have an income to subscribe to cable, but we just don't have an interest in it. So you have all these changes, and the bigger traditional companies in TV are trying to compete with companies like Amazon and Netflix by kind of converting over to all these platforms. So how well suited are they to do this? And is it likely that they'll have to kind of merge or even go out of business?
It's a great question, and it's one that everyone in Hollywood and everyone at Wall Street is trying to figure out. And the truth is, it's a variety of different business things that are coming into play. Yes, you have cord nevers and cord cutters that don't have a need for a linear structure of a cable television station or a broadcast television station. Will the large companies figure it out? That's a $99 question. And part of it is you can't lump all of the large companies into one group because they all have different aspects. Take, for example, Sony Pictures, Columbia Pictures and Sony. They make hardware as well. So, they have a different approach to things than saying, well, we make the PlayStation, we can distribute content via the internet through our own devices onto our own television sets that we build. A company like Disney doesn't create hardware, but they have an integrated vertical system. They can take their product and put it out and create games, create other products, books, toys, bring you into the theme parks. So they have a whole different look on how to do that. The challenge that both of those companies have, and the others that are legacy companies, is their responsibilities are to continue to grow and grow their value for their shareholders. We can't just stop that on a dime, turn, and embrace the
machine
internet.
is running so fast.
The machine is running, exactly. And our responsibility is to keep that machine running. A company like Amazon, which is very interesting, you brought up Amazon and Netflix. The challenge with those companies is you have to remember Amazon is not actually in the content development business. That's not their main goal. And the truth is they're competing on a whole different level than a NBC Universal owned by Comcast.
Right, really,
if you look
any
at that
media company.
Exactly. If you look at that vertical integration, well, now you've got a company like Amazon that doesn't need content to put into their stream, but they're doing it as an add-on for something else that's actually their business model. Then you have a Netflix who has absolutely no infrastructure cost behind it. Once it's there, it's there. They license content, they send it out, but their model is completely different. Anybody could launch a streaming network or streaming service like Netflix. About $2,000 in hardware, a couple $100 in startup service with a host company. You too can have a Netflix. Now, the question is, how do you get that out to people that they know about it, which is starting to become the problem on the streaming side. There are so many networks that are popping up that as soon as you get beyond the big 3 or 4, as soon as you get past those that have the infrastructure built. I mean, the Apples, obviously Apple can do it because they have a huge
Amazon,
infrastructure.
Netflix, Hulu.
Once you get past those four, you can have hundreds, if not thousands, of these streaming networks, and there's a lot out there if you do research. But how do they get that momentum that they're actually able to sustain a business model?
So, Kevin, you mentioned all these companies streaming. They're just kind of saturated. All these people offering streaming services. So, how does that content saturation, along with cord cutting, affect advertisers? What implications are there for advertisers?
Well, the implications are huge, and it's started a couple of years ago when one of the largest ad agencies in the United States actually wrote a letter to their clients and suggested that they shift a majority of their funds away from essentially traditional television and cable industries and shift it into new media. It was actually an earth-shattering time because they had clients including General Motors and Coca-Cola. So all of a sudden you have the giant advertisers shifting away from the NBCs and the TNTs of the world and moving over to the YouTube Reds, as it were. It's an interesting conundrum because the problem with the streaming, a lot of the streaming sites, is their audiences are not that large. Aggregately, they're just not that large. And the second challenge is they're not all watching the product at the same time. It's very hard to find a product like the Super Bowl, which at the time of this recording is coming up, that has a tendency to attract a huge number of viewers. But Fox, who's carrying the Super Bowl this year, just announced that they are going to be selling internet-only or digital-only advertisements, $700,000 for a 30-second spot.
That's right.
As opposed to the $5 million for the broadcast spot. It's an interesting conundrum, though. If you do the math, they're valuing a digital viewer at 10 times the value of a broadcast viewer,
wow,
which absolutely turns advertising on its head. That's never happened before. So you have this whole shift in the way that people are looking at it. And you had a second part of the question, so I'll let you just throw it back again.
So the cord cutting, what kind of implications does that have for advertisers?
Cord cutting has a whole nother set of issues for advertisers. One being that you just don't have the mass audience, and you can't reach the audience at the same time. Netflix, when they first launched their product, and their first product was House of Cards, and they dropped it all at one time, total change when no one expected them to do that, and they basically created the whole concept of binge viewing. Problem with binge viewing is that if you're an advertiser, advertising for 50 to 70 years has been built on the idea that we're going to roll out different campaigns at different times. So starting Monday for a week and a half, we're going to roll this one campaign to get you to take an action. Doesn't work if everyone's watching a product or consuming media at a different time, and they see that ad at a different time.
And also thus the kind of shift from like campaign timed, very scheduled type things, like you're saying, to a shift on the value of brand and just brand recognition. Because a TV show that's dropped in and a whole season and people are watching it over the next 5 years, kind of whenever they want to, giving someone just a feel for the brand is so much more important than buy this product right now. If you're tied to the brand, then that's so much more important in advertising. Absolutely,
and it brings up other opportunities. I mean, wherever there are challenges or problems, there's a new opportunity, and part of that does advertising move more toward product placement and more toward branded entertainment, which is a whole concept of things that are done. It may be new opportunities for producers to look at things along those lines.
So in terms of popularity and the things that are doing well right now, you kind of have all these shows stacked up, and the views, the number of views, and if you take everything and say, okay, what has the most views, what has the least views, the things with the most views obviously are doing the best, and they're even growing. And the things with the least views, you kind of ask, well, why do these have not a lot of views? Well, it could be one, because they're just not very good, but it could also be because they have a very specific audience. So, and typically that's termed niche content. So that content is also doing very well. And it's this middle kind of like, it's reaching some people, but not as much as the really popular stuff, but more than the stuff that's really specific audience. That is actually declining. Those programs are kind of declining in viewership. So what does this say about audiences?
Well, it says something about audiences, and it also says something about the challenges that corporations are facing, the large ones we spoke about a few
Yeah.
moments ago. What it says about audiences is really the audience is becoming a niche audience. It's really dividing down into little tiny pieces. And if you look at the parallel from to the music industry, from what the visual media industry is going through right now, it used to be that the music industry had a whole lot of acts that were medium-sized and some gigantic breakout supergroups. Same as you had basically in television and in film. You had a whole lot of middle-level films and TV shows, and then a few breakouts that made a lot of money.
Right.
What's happened in the music industry because of streaming, basically you have some supergroups still, but the majority, there's no middle ground anymore. But what it's opened up is for new creators to basically be able to come up with a model where their overhead is low. They have a very hardcore, dedicated fan base. So if you take the simple example of the music industry, which basically says you don't need 1 million fans any longer. You need 1,000 die-hard fans that are willing to spend $100 a year on your products, be it albums or t-shirts or concerts you go to. You do the math, for one person, that's not a bad living, especially for a musician, if you think about it, since it's always been a challenging, business to be in, any art or any entertainment.
Yeah.
The same thing is happening on the media side. If you break out and say, well, for content creation, we don't need, a 60 by 100 foot studio in Studio City with 70-foot ceilings and the grip trucks and 100 people in the crew and, cameras that cost, hundreds of thousands of dollars, to purchase and just thousands upon thousands of dollars to rent. We can do it with a small condensed crew, an inexpensive camera, give virtually the same quality. It's limited by your talent at that point. If you have the talent, you can create a great product. Well, now all of a sudden, you don't need 5 million people to watch your show. If you have 5,000 and they love it and they're willing to pay you $10, each to watch it, you can do a nice little product. You have a small company, you have whatever, you're getting a story out. So the technology is driving the story at the same time is adopting the technology. The monetary, the business models behind it are all shifting, and it's really just up to the creativity of the individuals in the industry.
So we've talked a lot about digital content. You even mentioned YouTube Red, all that kind of stuff. So I just want to kind of pose something to you and see how it lands. So there's hundreds of YouTube channels that are putting out videos anywhere from once a week to once a day, even several times a day. And these videos are getting several hundreds of thousands up to even 5 million views in the first couple days or couple weeks. So my question is, how does that kind of audience compare to the audience of like traditional television or even newer media like Netflix and Amazon?
Shows that are on now on traditional television would have been canceled after week 1 10 years ago, no question, hands down. The average audience, if I remember correctly, for Conan O'Brien's show has been around 700,000 viewers, which by broadcast standards or cable standards is minuscule. It's been reflected in their shifting the way that they're going to do the program from a 5-day-a-week program to doing either 1 day a week or specials. The YouTubes and the whatnot, yes, some things do break out. The thing that you need to remember, folks need to remember, is there are aggregators of that content on YouTube. There are essentially YouTube networks within YouTube, and those folks get content that they think will work together. They aggregate it into an ongoing stream, and then they have that social media machine behind them to get that product out to people.
Well, thank you, Kevin, for joining us today. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's been fun.
Yes, definitely. It's a great discussion. And thank you, everyone, for joining in online, on demand. If you like this video, please give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and we've also got plenty of other content that we're producing, and feel free to go ahead and check it out.